Well, today we are going to be talking about a pretty incredible topic. It's something that impacts most women that I know. As a matter of fact, I don't think I can think of a single woman that isn't impacted by all of the drama in the workplace, and especially with what we call catty women. All right, well, how are you today? Are you ready to go? Are you at work? Maybe you work for yourself. Maybe you're enjoying your quiet and you are thinking about how you can be productive and how you can solve world peace or world hunger today. But maybe what's on your mind is, how do you deal with really difficult people? Maybe last week as you left the week, you were thinking about all of the drama that was going on in your situation. Maybe you were thinking about, gosh, how can I get along with this person I seem to just be having a clash with? We all have these challenges. I'm sure that every single one of us can think of a person that we struggle with. I want to start today off with a story. And this is something that happened to me in corporate America. I always went from job to job. I was always just very intent on performing well and always just connecting with people. And I really always valued relationship. I also really valued performance. So I was a go-getter, driver, activator. Those of you who know me know that, boy, I don't just sit around. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Well, in my very one of the organizations that I worked for, I was on a leadership team. It was an all-woman leadership team, and I was really excited as I was coming into this company. I thought, yeah, this is going to be good. I'm going to be connecting with other women leaders, and it's going to be so wonderful. Well, I immediately realized that that was not going to be the case. I had a fantastic team supporting me, who happened to be mostly female. And I was new in my role, and so I was anxious to get going, just doing my normal thing, being Angie overachiever. And I was also leading my team, and we were presenting a new strategy for my organization about how we were going to develop people and coach them, and how we were going to build up our leaders and our employees. So here we were in this meeting. We were all excited. We had spent a lot of time preparing, and we were going to be presenting this in front of my female colleagues. Not all of them, but a few of them who were my peers. And our goal in this was to share with them the exciting news of strategies that would help to develop their people. And we felt certain that they were going to be happy about this, that finally there were going to be some solutions. And it was important to get their buy-in at the same time, because they would be the advocates of these programs and this strategy that we would be developing. So we get into the room, and my team starts presenting their ideas, and I'm looking over at my female peers who are watching. They're very stoic, just very silent, and I'm slowly starting to pick up a vibe, and it's a very not a good vibe. All right, I'll just put it that way. It wasn't a good vibe. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I blow it off, and I think, well, that we have already spent some time preparing them for this, preparing people before the meeting to hear the message. And so maybe it's just that they're bored and they're just ready to get through this. So once my team presents what the strategy is, and by the way, they did an exceptional job of trying to engage my female peers, it's my turn to get up and basically bring it home. So I bring it home. And all of a sudden, it's like this beehive of attack happens, where my female peers are suddenly attacking the strategy out of nowhere. It was a complete stun gun experience. These were women, I had known them probably 60 to 90 days, and we had prepped them for this opportunity, for this thing that was happening. And they just came out like a swarm of bees and really just started stinging and attacking. I mean, it was like the worst possible scenario in terms of catty women. So we had 3 catty women there who were freaking out. I maintained my cool. My team did too. Spoke to them calmly. And then finally, we got them, they left, they got up and left the room. And I just looked at my team and we all just broke down. We were so stunned that women could behave this way. We were just shocked by it. So has anybody ever experienced that, where you had an experience where you were with another woman or even a group of women and they stun gunned you? They stun gunned you, or they behaved in a way that you just didn't expect, or maybe even they made passive aggressive comments, just not being so direct, but maybe you had an experience where somebody else was really direct and you were just surprised by it. Yeah, so I'm getting some confirmations on that right now. So thanks for letting me know that. Yeah, so we've all been in that position, even me, your coach. And I look at these situations as training days. They're opportunities for you to be sharpened. We can very simply look at it in the mindset of, I was attacked. Did I feel like I was attacked? Yes. Yes, I absolutely did. But I realized that in this moment, it was an opportunity to learn how to deal with situations such as this. So what was my realization about this situation in that moment? My realization after processing it was that you can't change catty women. You can't do it. You can only change yourself and the way that you react to them. Can I get an amen on that? You can't change catty women. You can only change how you react to them. You may have heard me say that on a number of other topics, but that is really true. When it comes to situations where other people are attacking you, it doesn't matter if it's male, female, it doesn't matter if you're having an argument with your spouse. The first mistake you make is thinking that maybe you can change them, right? Well, you can't. You can only change how you react and how you perceive the situation. So I'll just tell you, I had a little bit of fun with this in the spirit of talking about cattiness, because there's like this extra venom. There's this, I created this graphic and I put this little claw on there because it was like, rawr, you can even hear that when women in particular get so emotional. And why do we pick on women? I'm going to tell you why. It simply has to do with brain wiring, because women, the way that our brains are wired, we are much more emotional creatures. Reactive emotional creatures. So for example, women, we process from an emotional place first, and then our brains move to logic. That's it. That's for 2/3 of all women. Well, for men, they tend to start processing at a logical place and then go to emotion. The thing about men is they've built in so many gatekeepers to stop that to try to stop that process, that they don't appear as catty. But I'm going to tell you what, that men can become very emotional and catty too. They get very territorial. So that's a whole nother topic to broach. But for women, we become catty because we play into our emotions much more quickly, and many of us struggle to manage those emotions on the fly. So I created an acronym today to help describe what you can do to deal with catty women, and I'm going to give you some tips around how to declaw these catty women. Haha, declaw catty women. I hope you got that. So I have to give credit to my friend and colleague Cynthia Murray, because this weekend she does this thing. It's called The Village on Sundays. It's like church for those that can't go to church, and she used an acronym. I said, I'm going to borrow Cynthia's idea, and I'm going to create my own acronym so that we can remember how to declaw these catty women. Okay, so first of all, in declaw, we're going to say D, don't play the game. Don't play the game. So it's very easy when you step outside of this situation where women are being catty. It's almost like the high school game, right? Where one's going over and whispering in somebody else's ear, and then there's some drama that ensues, or one's complaining about the other. Well, and it's just, that really comes from a place of insecurity in a woman. Why do women talk about other women? Because they have a sense of insecurity. They don't have a strength or a confidence within themselves. And there are, women are always dealing with these inner critics that that we talked about this last week, I believe, where we talk about that comparison spirit, that that spirit that wants us to compare ourselves to others, when we clearly know that we are unique. Every single one of us is like an authentic, unique mural. You're not designed like anybody else. You're designed like you. You have unique DNA, so you're not, when you compare yourself, you're already going down the wrong road because you're comparing apples and oranges. You're never going to be like everybody else. You're not going to look like everybody else. So recognizing that, don't play the game. Don't play the high school game. This, for those of us who understand that there's an unseen force that's going on behind the scenes. There's a battle that's unseen and it's invisible. Christian, if you're a Christian, you understand. Let me just tell you, for those of you that are Christians, you got to pray it down. Pray it down, because it's a spiritual battle. So don't play the game. On our acronym for declaw, the next one is E. Empathize without becoming emotional, but don't sympathize. How many of us know the difference between empathize and sympathize? When we think about empathy, it's really about stepping back, understanding from that person's perspective what they're going through. So it's really just gaining a new perspective, stepping outside of yourself and being an observer of what that person is probably thinking or going through, thinking about, what it is that they're struggling with, asking yourself, I wonder why, what's driving this behavior. So empathy is really along those lines. And it means that when I say that you're stepping outside, I like to think of it, you're stepping out in coach mode. And for those of us who are coaches, we know that when a person brings their challenges and problems, we can't play into that. We can't jump in and be in that problem with them. Well, it's the same thing when you're dealing with catty women. You want to start to understand where they're coming from so that you can deal with them, but you can't jump into the pool of problems with them. Now, sympathizing looks totally different. Sympathizing is more like, oh, I totally understand that. Just jumping in and being in that problem with them and feeling it with them. So KK, you've got a great way to sum it up. Empathy is understanding, sympathy is feeling with them. Well, when we get down there and we feel in it with them, then we start to, it's like a virus and it spreads within us. And before you know it, you're right there in the middle of this big, hot high school drama mess, right? So we don't want to go there. But here's something, I wanted to add this piece to empathizing, because sometimes people, we need to call things as they are. And it doesn't, if somebody is they're showing up as catty, we don't want to play into that, but we still want to notice when they're doing something right, because we just, sometimes they need that encouragement. So if you see somebody that's saying, and they've done something right, hey, that was great how you handled that. That was a great job of doing that. Just making those kinds of positive affirmations to reinforce when they are doing something right, it can really mean a lot. It can help to diffuse some of the cattiness that's happening between you and them. So just throw that out there just as an extra little tidbit, an extra little snack. All right. So the next letter in declaw is C. So check your confidence first. This one is super critical. Check your confidence first. So many times we jump into a situation, but we're not even confident ourselves. So how strong is your self-confidence? How strong is your courage? I talk about self-confidence. For me, I'll tell you what, I'm realizing that I can't totally rely on my own self-confidence. I know that my confidence comes from God, so a lot of times I got to check with Him and say, okay, is this cool, right? So, but you got to check your confidence level first. Are you in the position, where are you? Are you a person that you are able to step back and empathize instead of sympathize? Are you able to have rule over yourself? Are you able to bring yourself into subjection to where you're not impacted by someone's catty comments, right? So you've got to have rule over yourself first in order to, I mean, if you're in a position where you're forced to go on the offensive, and by the way, that's not every time. I'm going to share with you in just a moment about when is the right time to jump in and do something. You simply have to step back and make sure that you have rule over yourself and you've brought your mind and your thoughts into subjection, and you are able to maintain control of yourself. Because if you're not in this place, then you don't even want to be anywhere near the cat fight or anywhere near the drama or contribute to it by any means. And we don't want to contribute to any cat fight at all. So declaw, the next letter, L, listen, and listen for values. Usually when people have conflicts, it's the result of a misunderstanding or a misalignment around a person's values. So for example, I have some key values around freedom, around faith, around respect. Those are key values for me. Those are very critical in my life. Well, you may have a different set of values. Your top values might be integrity. It might be, you might have a value around harmony. You might have a value, I'm sure that you can think of some others. So what are some of your values? You're welcome to share those with me. But so for example, let's say that you have someone who has a value of harmony, and their way of dealing with things is to avoid or step away. Whereas I have a value of freedom and faith, and that tends to drive me into a conversation with somebody to deal with it head on. So you see, sometimes that can be intimidating for someone who doesn't have the same value set that you do, and you have to be mindful of that. But listen for the other person's values. Something that you can say to yourself is, okay, so this person is complaining about this problem, but what is it that they're really valuing? And you can even call that out. It's using what I call the listening coach. Listening coach is basically the ability to step back and process what that other person is saying, and then reframing what they're saying in a more positive and neutral way. So for example, if I hear somebody, they're complaining about Judy over here who just completely just came in late and was, totally disregarded this person's feelings about, jumping in late and causing her to miss a deadline. What's the value that's being talked about there? So it might be that this person is valuing respect. It could be that this person is valuing timeliness or efficiency. And it's just helpful as being the person who's listening, you're a listening coach and you're listening for values, simply acknowledging that to the person, because here's what people want. They want you to recognize them, they want you to acknowledge them, and they want you to validate them. Recognize, acknowledge, and validate. Those are the three key things that people want from you. So simply acknowledging their values. So what I hear you saying is that you value respect and you also value time. So it's important for you to be on time. Just simply reflecting that back to someone can mean a lot. It can mean a big difference. All right, so L is listening for values. A is for staying authentic. Oh, this is really important to me. So authenticity is also a value of mine. I believe in being authentic. I believe in being transparent and just putting things out there to deal with, because when you avoid that or you try to put up a front and be someone else, it ends in disaster. And you know what? Going back to that situation I was telling you about that I was in, it was a difficult situation. I tried everything in my power to, I tried to come on strong. I tried to step back and not say anything. It just felt like everything that I did was off and it wasn't working. And it was only when I came back to what my values were, what was important to me, that I was able to center myself. So authenticity is key. So sometimes with authenticity, though, we have to make sure that we're managing if you're like me, I'm an extrovert and things will come flying out of my mouth, right? So for me, I have to use an autoresponder. And what I mean is, if somebody says something ugly or they're being catty or they're, you can tell there's some venom in what they're saying, you simply want to make sure that you are having the rule over yourself, like we talked about earlier, but that you are also allowing yourself time to process what that person's saying. So, I want to just emphasize that A really stands for authenticity and also autoresponders when called for. An autoresponder might sound something like this. Hey, I appreciate you giving me that feedback, or I appreciate that comment. I'm going to take some time to think about that, and I'm going to get back to you on it. So I'm not going to respond to that right now. And just simply doing it in a respectful way, not being moved in heated emotion, but just bringing yourself back into a place of calm composure where you have control over the situation. So the final letter of our DCLAW acronym is W. And when we say W, I'm talking about walk away when you become emotional, and watch your tone. So walk away when you become emotional and watch your tone. This is key also to making sure that you have rule over yourself. Remember, this is a battle that's unseen. It is a battle that you can choose and make a decision whether or not you're going to enter into this. So walking away could even mean walking away from the organization. This isn't I'm not one to say, leave at the first sight of conflict. I don't think that's the answer. I think that you're in a situation, it's designed to sharpen you as a person, especially, for those of us we believe in God, we're being sharpened, we're being tested. This is a training day for us, and we need to pass this test. So if you have to walk away for temporary reasons because you need to get yourself together, that's good. But when is the right time to walk away for good? When is it time to walk away because the situation has gotten so difficult and you can't deal with the catty women and it just feels like a losing battle? Well, first of all, you got to check in and say, have I done everything on this DCLAW acronym? Have I maintained rule over myself? Have I stayed away from playing the game? Have I made the effort to empathize and step away from being so emotional? Have I checked in with my confidence? Have I been listening for values? Have I stayed true to myself? Have I stayed authentic? Have I sought God for this? Have I sought Him for the answers and for the direction? And have I bound this thing up? You've got the ability to say, I'm not tolerating this. I bind this up. I'm not receiving this. And think about what you're speaking life into. Are you speaking more life into it? Well, if you've practiced everything on the DCLAW acronym and you find that as a result of the environment, you start to become like that environment, then it's time to truly walk away for good. And I'll tell you that in my situation with the leadership team that I was on, it was becoming very difficult, and I knew that it was getting time for me to go. But at the same time, what I realized is that another door was being opened. So usually what happens is when it's time for you to permanently leave and you realize that you've gone through this catty woman environment, there will be a door. So start looking for that door. Don't run away from, but run to the next door. And do it feeling satisfied. You want to be able to walk away from that situation knowing that you've done everything that you can to make it work. Here's a side note about the story that I told you at the beginning. There was one of my peers at that point. I was at this organization for a couple of years, and then I jumped off into consulting. God opened up a door for me to do that. And then another one of my peers, I think about a year later, she left the company, and she and I came together and we had lunch. And it turns out that she was having the same battle that I was, but I never knew it. She was, as a matter of fact, she was originally one of those three that was in that meeting that came against us and really struggled. And when I talked to her, I actually talked to her and gave her some feedback while I was still with the organization. And I only did that when I made sure that I had the rule over myself. But I used a tool that I call SBI, Situation, Behavior, Impact. I sat down with her and told her, here's the situation that happened in that meeting. Here's the behavior that I saw coming out from you. And this is the impact that it had on me and my team. So I gave her that feedback, and she chewed on that for a long time. She had no idea. She had no idea that she was showing up that way. She was shocked. And a couple years later, when we came together to have lunch together as we were both independent consultants, she recognized that and apologized for that. She was just surprised that she even got caught up that she didn't even know that she had gotten caught up in that. And so when she needed to walk, she probably needed to walk away sooner, and she chose not to, and she started to become like that environment. So I think going back to being authentic, it's important that when you have the rule of yourself, you've got the confidence, you've prayed this out. For those of you who are God seeking, I don't care if you are, if you're not, but prayer works, I'm going to tell you, and building that relationship. So you've got to walk away and before you become a part of that environment. All right, I'm going to give you a few additional tips that I believe will help you in your efforts to deal with catty women. So these are just some of them are fun, some of them are a little bit more deep. But first of all, the first tip I want to give you is always expect the stun gun from catty women. Don't ever think that it's not going to happen to you. Just be ready for it and know that eventually it's going to come around. And look at it as a training day. It is a tool designed to sharpen you, to see how you're going to react. And you got to stick with your authenticity. Sometimes you might have to use some autoresponders. Go ahead and have one in your mind. If you are presented with a situation where someone stun guns you, a woman is coming at you, she's catty, or you've gotten some indirect feedback, be prepared to deal with that. Even go and say, hey, I got some feedback and I just wanted to check in with you, and I would really appreciate your honesty so that we can build a relationship. Just going in that authentic and transparent mindset, it's going to help you. Now, with that, I'm going to tell you that sometimes women are so insecure that in the moment they'll buy into that, but then they'll go around and talk about you. But here's the thing, you have to live with yourself, and you have to do what's pleasing in the sight of God. So that's your goal. It's not to please other people, but to know that you did what was right, to do what you said you were going to do and be authentic and meaningful. So, all right, Jana, you says this idea seems that it will also work in our personal relationships so much resonate. Yes, this isn't just for work. This is for your relationships around. I mean, you're a whole person. You don't check yourself at the door. These are all relevant to your entire life. So another tip I want to give to you is to conserve your energy and save it for when it really counts. Is there a time to go to war? Absolutely, there is a time. And that time is, if you think about it, the time to go to war is when something unethical has happened or a core value of yours has been stepped on. Those are two times to go to bat and be assertive and confident around that. So you are an advocate. You are a person who is designed to speak up. You've been given a voice. And don't be the person that watches this all go on and you know that something unethical is happening or your personal value is being stepped on, you're being run over. I made the mistake one time of, there are times to be silent. And there was a time where I was silent in a time when I needed to speak up, and I regret that. I wish I could go back and take it back. I've moved past that, but if you know in your heart that you are being called, you are being prompted to address the situation, and you have got the declaw down pat, then it's time to speak up. And I recommend that you practice before you ever talk to a human being, that you even practice in the car or practice it on the phone, how you're going to address that. You will not only be able to go ahead and manage your emotions more effectively that way, but you're also going to be able to really commit to memory what it is that you want to see and say, and you're not only going to be able to be confident in what you are going to say, but you're also going to be in a better position to maintain your composure, no matter what somebody else responds with. So here's a brain science thing for you, real quick. Last thing, don't wear red. Don't wear a lot of red around women because it invokes jealousy. That's a brain science, that's color research. It's something that we teach in the School of Executive Presence. Red really inflames other women, and so if you're in that situation with catty women, stay away from the red. Stick with blues and colors that are more soothing, and that will help them to see past the red and see you as a human being. All right, so here's what we've covered today. We have talked about tips to handle catty women. I shared a story with you that was very personal, where I did a lot of learning and soul searching on how to deal with these difficult women. We talked about the realization that you can't change them, you can only change yourself and how you react to them. I gave you an acronym, declaw, how to declaw those catty women. D, don't play the game. Don't play the game and pray it down. E, empathize without becoming emotional, but don't sympathize. C, check your confidence first. Where are you? You got to have rule over yourself first. L, listen for their values and reframe. Call it out so that they know that you are recognizing them, you are acknowledging them, and you're validating them. A, stay authentic. Stay authentic, but also use autoresponders when necessary. That means a pre-planned response when you know that your emotions are going to be, when they're going to be triggered, and you know that this is going to be a highly emotional situation. All right, and then W, walk away when you become emotional, and also walk away when you find that you start becoming like these catty women. You want to stay away from that. You want to save yourself from that. We also talked about some quick tips that you can put into practice right away to deal with these women. I hope today was a great call for you. I would love to hear from you, love to hear your feedback, so feel free to send that along. Please share this with your female colleagues and your friends. And I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.